And thank you for joining today's Surge Series webcast, the final installment in the year series. I'm Claire Butterfield. I'm the Program Director at the Illinois Science and Energy Innovation Foundation, or ISEIF. As with the other items in our series, this conversation is focused on an unanswered question. Next generation energy technology gives customers and utilities access to unprecedented amounts of energy data. How will it impact our lives? Today we are joined by two guests who work at the intersection of energy management and data. Hannah Bascom is the head of business development at Nest Labs. Her work focuses on developing partnerships in the energy space. Before joining Nest, she worked for a number of years in the utility industry. Our second guest is Matt Gee, data scientist at the University of Chicago's Center for Data Science and Public Policy, an ISEIF grantee organization. Before joining the University of Chicago, Matt co-founded and served as CTO for Effortless Energy, a tech company that leverages energy savings to finance smart home upgrades. Welcome, and thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks, Claire.
If you're watching this on Google Hangouts and want to submit a question, click on the little white grid in the upper right corner of your screen and switch from Showcase to the Q&A app. We'll leave about 10 minutes at the end for questions. So Hannah, Nest is known best for bringing a new level of cool to temperature control, but the growing list of products that integrate with Nest suggests that it's part of a bigger picture. What is the Nest vision, and what role does data play?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nest has three core products at this point. The thermostat, known as the Nest, which is the first learning thermostat. We have Nest Protect, which is the carbon monoxide and smoke alarm. And we have the Nest Cam, which is a Wi-Fi connected camera that can be used for baby monitoring, pet monitoring, sort of lightweight security. But then beyond that, we really believe in the vision for sort of the thoughtful home. And so we have a platform called Works with Nest that enables other developers and other manufacturers to connect their hardware and software platforms to Nest devices and really to different integrations and use cases. And so ultimately, we hope to enable a safer, smarter, more energy efficient home. And data, of course, plays a really big role in that. And so at Nest, we spend a lot of time thinking about making sure that customer data and privacy is maintained, because fundamentally, our company is really built on consumer trust, but then also enabling specific sets of data that enable these use cases to make homes smarter, safer, more energy efficient, and letting the power of other innovators and other developers kind of harness those data feeds to enable their own kind of great integrations and use cases. With circling back to the customer privacy bit, always making it very clear to consumers what data is being shared and why right up front, so that no one is surprised later on. That would be the worst case scenario.
Thanks. Matt, data isn't just being collected from smart meters, but also from devices like the Nest thermostat. So what value does this data provide, both to those who are collecting it and to the consumers themselves?
Sure. So for collectors, a big part of the use of the data and the value of the data is understanding their customers and providing, in many ways, low-cost accounting for what's going on. So for utilities, the meter and these devices that can connect to meter allow them to, at a much lower cost, understand the usage patterns across entire areas and provide a more stable grid. And for providers of connected devices in homes, the folks that are often collecting this with customer consent are using it to better understand the usage behaviors of those same customers and innovate on new products that will make their customer experience better. In addition to that, for the customers themselves, a big part of what these connected devices are allowing is initially just a better form of engagement, better information when it's needed. But increasingly what you're seeing, and this is, I think, the most exciting thing, is new services that are layering on top of that data that really make powering your home easier, cheaper, and cleaner. You're seeing the use of connected devices and helping allow for the faster transition to solar, for better control, like the whole Nest ecosystem, and for new pay-for-performance models that reduce the costs while increasing the sophistication of in-home use. So those are just some of the uses of these connected devices.
Hannah, what factors do you see driving the adoption of the Nest thermostat? Is having a cool, pretty product enough, or do external conditions like energy prices and utility policies play a role?
Absolutely. So we believe that fundamentally, if the product is not beloved and is not making customers' lives more comfortable, as well as saving them money, and also looking great on their wall, the demand for the product isn't going to be there. So we are a very customer-focused, customer-centric design-focused company, and so making sure that all of our products are beautiful, are very easy and intuitive to install and use, and that, again, the learning and thoughtful concepts really play through here. So we believe that you shouldn't have to spend a lot of time programming your thermostat. It should automatically learn from you and your preferences and your schedules, and also the way your home and your equipment interact with one another to seamlessly manage all of this. So first and foremost, driving consumer demand is important, and that's why you'll see lots of Nest advertising there in Chicago. We actually are doing a huge campaign now in support of this Million Thermostats program that was just announced last week, and we couldn't be more excited about that. And this is a great transition also to bringing in the role of the utility, because not everyone can afford to have a $249 thermostat on their wall, just sort of, right out of pocket. It's a big capital outlay for lots of people. And once it's on the wall, it is going to save money. It's going to have a very short payback. So our studies, third-party studies actually have shown Nest will save 10 to 12% on heating and 15% on cooling. So very quick payback, especially there in Chicago where the winters are pretty harsh. But the fact that we have utilities who are able to leverage energy efficiency and demand response budgets to lower that cost for customers, and then, of course, meet the targets that they have for energy efficiency and load reduction, that's huge. And so we really see the partnerships with energy companies as absolutely crucial for transforming the market and creating really widespread adoption of these kinds of devices.
So let's just stick with that Million Thermostat announcement for a minute, because that was big news here in Illinois. And one of the reasons that the utilities were interested in making such a bold and audacious goal is that there are a lot of programmable thermostats on walls now that are not programmed. How is the Nest different? If a consumer does nothing but install it, how does the Nest work differently?
Yeah, so if the customer just installed it on the wall and never touched it again, I mean, that actually wouldn't really happen, right? Because at some point you would get hot or get cold and you would make an adjustment. And Nest is always learning. So it learns most intensely during the first couple of weeks that it's on the wall, so it's more sensitive to the adjustments that you make in the morning and night, and also will notice your patterns for when you're home and when you're away. And then it starts to just create a schedule for you. And then over time, we have a program called Seasonal Savings, which basically automates behavior change. So this is only available through utility partnerships, and so we're hopeful that we can roll this out in Illinois in the coming months or years. But basically what it does is it would say, Claire, you can save up to 8% this winter with seasonal savings. And that 8% would be targeted specifically to you based on what we know about your schedule, your preferences in terms of comfort, and then the way that your home interacts with your equipment. And once you say, yes, I would like to do this, over the next 3 weeks, we make little tiny changes to your set points and your schedules every day to bring you to the most efficient schedule possible. And so this gets deployed twice a year, winter and summertime, and will help to save on average an additional about 4% of your heating or cooling. So that's a really great opportunity for utilities to engage with their customers and bring them really, good news and an engaging type of program that saves them money, and then also to boost the energy efficiency savings.
Thanks. That was really helpful. So, Matt, data insights and alerts are most often delivered virtually through smartphone apps or online dashboards. Why do physical devices like the Nest thermostat or gateway devices still matter?
Sure. So two things: increased control and increased insight. And the first is these other physical devices in the home, right, are able to connect with other systems, right? So your HVAC system, the heating and cooling systems, sometimes your lighting systems. And these physical devices that are connected to the internet and that you can control through your smartphone allow for the automated and sometimes manual control of internal systems. And so that they play a very important kind of intermediating role for this new intelligent home. Second, increased insight. So while you may be able to connect directly to your smart meter now through an online dashboard or phone application, the granularity of the information that's collected just at the meter is unfortunately a little too coarse to tell you important things about your home's usage. Whether you're using more washing your clothes than you are washing your dishes, or where the biggest energy hogs are within your home. But when you install these devices within the home that can connect to the meter or even connect directly to some of your plugs, they can increase the precision and the level of insight that they can deliver back to you as a homeowner to help understand your own energy use. And so those are really the two reasons why a lot of these in-home devices are increasingly useful and increasingly popular. Increased control for the homeowner and increased insight for how your behavior is affecting use.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Claire, I would love to just follow up on what Matt had to say. So I think that all of that is absolutely true and right. And I would say that we at Nest spend a lot of time thinking about how to make it easy for customers so they actually don't have to think about adjusting and what it means for them. Because ultimately, and I'm sure you guys have heard the stat, customers spend something like 7 minutes a year thinking about their energy usage, and it's when they pay their utility bill. And so customers don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about how much energy their washer and their dryer use and figuring out precisely the right time of day to turn all of this stuff on and off. So part of the Works with Nest program and the Nest Learning Thermostat really is let's make it easy for them so that they don't have to worry about managing all this stuff, but it delivers huge energy efficiency, huge kind of load shift and modification benefits, and will ultimately save the customer money.
I think go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just saying, and so to enrich this part of the discussion a little bit, which I think is really fantastic, as more of these devices come online and customers face kind of an increasingly kind of dizzying landscape of things they might install, it's going to be really important for customers to understand how the different kind of magical algorithms that are controlling these devices are actually going to affect their bills and affect their homes. So that kind of transparency into the ultimate effects of if I buy this, what will likely happen, is something that the EPA is actually working on a lot. So one of the things we've been working on with Nest and actually the rest of the smart thermostat ecosystem is a standard way of those thermostats quantifying the average savings for an install within a particular region, and having that be an open standard that will allow customers to better compare across smart thermostats and be able to say, all right, if it's doing all these automated things for me, what does that mean? Am I gonna save $3 or $300? And so I think that efforts like that are going to make it easier for customers to make decisions across an increasingly rich ecosystem of devices.
Which I think is for the typical customer good news and bad news, because it's data rich. You can make more informed decisions, and of course you have more decisions that you have to make. So that goes to exactly where ISEIF is trying to use our funding and our support to explore this intersection between automation and control. And so one of the major benefits of the smart technology like the Nest thermostat is that it does automate a lot of this the work. So, but behavior change will make it work better. So if the homeowner actually sits down and engages with the device and puts the program in and provides more information. So where is the nexus? Where is this moving? Is behavior change becoming obsolete as better automation takes over, or is there always going to be this need for the consumer to gain an insight from the data and take some control? That's a question for you both.
All right, Matt, do you want to go? You want to go first on this one?
Sure. So I guess I have my own opinions on this. I think behavior will always matter. It often will. I think what will continually change is which behaviors industry really focuses on, and which behaviors automation starts to help out more with. And I think as you see more adoption of Nest-like devices, right, that are taking some of the cognitive load off of customers, and saying, you really shouldn't have to think about when to turn up and turn down your thermostat or how to program it, because that's not ultimately what you want to spend your time thinking about. That's fantastic. That's great innovation in the marketplace. But what that does is that then moves the behavior challenge to, all right, how do we, if these truly have a benefit and they're saving customers $300 a year or reducing the carbon intensity of the grid significantly, then we have to drive adoption, and that becomes the behavior of focus. And that's, you're going to see that. I mean, this is a huge challenge with the new thermostat initiative that was announced. Getting that many devices into homes in a very short period of time means a very dramatic change in customer behavior and customer choice. So I think behavior will always matter, and there will continually be innovation in this space for what behaviors get automated and what behaviors we focus in on. But in each of those cases, data actually plays a really critical role in learning how to help influence and change behaviors in a way that benefits customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. So particularly on the, influencing decisions. So at the point of purchase, getting customers to buy the smart thermostats and understand kind of the benefits to doing that, I think will really help to influence the purchasing decision. But then I think that this gets a little bit back to what I was talking about earlier, which is, we don't believe that even if you got a ton of savings from a really ugly piece of hardware that was not cool and not desirable and delivered no other benefits other than energy savings, customers really wouldn't want that device probably, because at the end of the day, there has to be all of these other benefits brought to bear besides just the energy savings piece. So I think that energy is a very important theme, and the bill savings is going to be huge for customers, but you have to make sure that the thermostat is beautiful and is usable and is delivering those other things. But I would also say on the behavior change in a more sustained way, I think that there are a lot of other benefits to having kind of engaged customers that go beyond energy savings. So at Nest, we have what's called the Nest Leaf. So it's literally a little green leaf that appears at the bottom of the thermostat when you're making a more efficient choice with your thermostat. And what we found about this is that it's been really transformational in that customers see it as a game. So they get involved in leaf chasing and they track. We have a monthly home report that gets sent out to all customers by email, and it tracks your leaf attainment month over month, and we'll do comparison to other Nest users and that sort of thing. And because it's a game, people are really engaged with it. And if you told them that they were going to save, $2.37 on their bill by changing the temperature 1 degree, they just wouldn't have that same level of engagement. And so figuring out a way to kind of harness what we know about psychology and people's kind of desire to be competitive and desire to play games and all that kind of stuff is really important when you're thinking about how to incent behavior change.
I'll put in one caveat because I guess I've got to be the academic curmudgeon on this one. I guess that's the role that I play. So you know, there on the gamification, it constructs fantastic stories, and you see some really fantastic short-term behaviors that people will dramatically change as a result of games. So one of the real challenges that I think the industry has, you know, not just the energy industry, but other industries have faced, is that even games as sticky as Angry Birds eventually kind of fall out of favor with customers, right? No one likes playing a game forever, and so one of the big challenges with things like energy, where you want to see permanent changes, is how to get the short-term stickiness of a game to lead to the long-term stickiness of a consistent change in behavior. And we haven't quite cracked that nut yet, but there are some really great experiments out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, and that's why we have seasonal savings, right? Because we believe that you're going to get more sustained persistence of energy efficiency savings if you automate it. And I think that's you're going to get probably, you know, more reliable results over a longer period of time if you automate as much as possible for the customer.
So we would use human tendency and gamification best if we used it to drive a period of short, sustained interaction where the consumer was providing a lot of information, which could then inform the automation that would build in the lasting energy savings.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting hypothesis, Matt. You can work on that one. But I think
let's work on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think when what we see also with our energy partnerships is that when customers are engaged in a program, and I don't mean engaged like they have to on a daily basis think about it, but they get really excited when they sign up, they see a payout, they kind of have positive reinforcements through the monthly energy reports or other emails from their utility. That's when you're getting also really positive customer satisfaction results as well, which is a huge goal, of course, for utilities. They want to figure out other ways to keep their customers happy and really transform the relationship that they have with those customers from one of just, you know, sending them a bill once a month to being more relevant and involved really in their homes and in their lives on a day-to-day basis.
So just to shift the subject a little bit, a lot of the benefits of energy data access seem to be, at least initially, for those who can afford to fill their homes with smart devices. Will low-income people, renters, and senior citizens participate in this energy market? And if so, how will they be able to do that?
We think absolutely yes, they should and can participate. I think that the education for those populations is going to be a bit trickier, and that's really why partnerships with utilities are so critical. They have these programs out there to do direct installations in homes, and they can help to tackle, you know, things like landlords and people who might not have the technical expertise to install a Nest, even though it's really easy, right? So it's particularly important, I think, for these populations to have the benefits of these technologies, because ultimately for them, you know, a savings of $150 a year is much more meaningful than your classic kind of early adopter tech head. So that's a big focus of ours going forward, and we're in the process now of scoping out a pilot with CETA, they're in Illinois as well, and so hope to have some results not only of the savings that is achieved in low-income households, but then also what their experience is like with the product. Are they as happy as kind of your typical customer with the products, or are there things that we need to do to sort of adapt for that market specifically?
And just to add to that, you know, I think interestingly enough, where you're seeing the most innovation in this area is not in the developed world, but in the developing world. In the developed world, for whatever reason, our approach to technology tends to be top-down and kind of trickle-down, and we'll figure out later how to get it down to low-income and senior populations. Whereas in the developing world, it really has been a lot of bottom-up innovation. And so you're seeing you're seeing some of the most interesting engagement with low-income populations in places like Tanzania and Jamaica, where they're doing pay-go solar through text messaging, and where they're doing prepaid utilities, and starting at the technological place that those populations are, and building the technology at purpose for them. And you've seen a little bit of experimentation in the States with that. There have been some really fantastic prepaid utility models that have been tried out in Texas. There are several of the low-income programs that Hannah mentioned. But I really think this is an area where the learning needs to actually go, global south to global north, and not the other way around. So I'm hoping we can look to some of our neighbors to figure out how to better reach those populations than we have in the past.
That sounds interesting, and like models we want to explore further. So what are the most promising possibilities for energy data at a macro level as we're looking at 111D, clean power compliance across the country? How could these devices and the data that they provide be used to have an impact beyond the individual home?
So I'm happy to, I guess, jump into that a little bit. So as you're getting increased standardization, so we talked a little bit about new standardization for quantifying the savings across smart and connected devices and smart thermostats. You're seeing similar efforts to do that more broadly in energy efficiency and solar. And as the standardization of how you use data to interact with the grid and quantify savings, to quantify the amount of load that is shifted, etc., you start to allow for new and much more innovative pricing models, and even remaking the utility entirely. And I think that is one of the things that not only distributed generation, but kind of this distributed network of devices that can control load or use is beginning to allow. You'll see, I think, a proliferation of pay-for-success models or pay-for-performance models. You're going to see really the proliferation of what are called capacity markets, and efficiency playing a role in capacity markets. You'll see, I think, many more programs like the peak time rebate program that you're seeing here in Illinois and other states, and all of these things really are made possible by the increasing granularity and increasing control that data in these devices provide. And that's good news for customers, that's good news for states and utilities, and that's good news for the planet. It's really helping play a critical role to help us transition to a cleaner, more sustainable, more sustainably powered grid, and allowing everyone to do kind of their small part in making a really big change.
Did you want to add anything to that, Hannah?
No, I think Matt has hit the nail on the head.
Do you have any questions for each other?
Oh, man. Well, I would be interested, Matt, as an academic, how are you working with companies and startups to kind of bring to life the things that you spend all day thinking about on the academic side?
Oh, sure. So I guess I'm a bit of an odd duck for an academic. I actually spend a lot more time outside of the office than in it. So not in the kind of rarefied air of the ivory tower, but really trying to understand how data is influencing and being used for decisions, and can be used to improve decision making in the social sector. So I've had really some fantastic opportunities and experiences to work with companies like Nest. In fact, the kind of head data scientist at Nest, a fellow named Michael Blasnick, is a close friend, and we've worked together on creating both the new standard for quantification of savings for smart thermostats, but also more broadly in energy efficiency. And I think you're seeing an increasing willingness across private sector companies and social startups to figure out ways of sharing their data and pooling their data to see change. One of the, I think, most encouraging efforts is that this is moving from developed world context to developing world context, really trying to figure out how you provide power to people that aren't on the grid is one of the biggest challenges in the developing world. And a lot of that, a lot of what's driving the innovation there is a willingness for these new social enterprises and startups that are offering new off-grid solar models to say, hey, we've got a few customers here and a few customers there. We're willing to share our data with you if you can pool it from several other companies that are in India or in Africa, and help us learn how to better segment the market, help us learn what the kind of performance of these different contracts are, and help provide the evidence that's necessary for capital markets to come in and finance this at a much larger scale. I think that's one of the really exciting things. People in this space are recognizing that when it comes to data, there's more power together than there is separately, and there's a willingness to break down silos in a way that hasn't been before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got a question for you, Hannah. So Nest is really you guys are the darling child of the connected home, right? You guys are the
Thank you.
Really, you're the belle of the ball, and that obviously comes with with great power comes great responsibility. How are you viewing your leadership role in the connected home, and when it comes to setting standards and helping the entire ecosystem grow, while also recognizing that you're a for-profit company and you have to protect your own interest, and sometimes a walled garden is a better business decision than an open one. How are you as Nest choosing to play with others and working in the broader ecosystem to help it grow?
Sure. So I'll take a quick step back and just philosophically break down the different models for the connected home. So there are sort of two basic theories. One is the platform-first approach, which is really the Apple model and the Iris model. And so this model is a select set of devices that all work together. And oftentimes this means that in and of themselves, the devices are not kind of beloved by consumers. And we at Nest see that the way that probably your entertainment system has evolved in your home and my entertainment system have evolved in my home is not that we went out and bought an entertainment system, right? As new products come online, you add them and subtract them and change things slightly, and we see that this is how the connected home is going to evolve. So this is the other philosophy, which is product first, and it is that we want to create really amazing products that consumers love and that are wonderful just by themselves, and then make it very, very easy for all of the products to interact with one another and link up together, and to create that kind of customized connected home that customers are looking for. And we know that we can't and shouldn't create all of these products ourselves, right? There are so many other amazing products that people are loyal to that are terrific products. And so through Works with Nest, this is really the open standard that is similar to, I would say, the App Store in a lot of ways, in that when the iPhone launched, for example, it wasn't really until the App Store was created that all of a sudden the power of that hardware was magnified exponentially, because you had all of these other innovators that were able to leverage that device to connect it with their own products and services and ideas. And that's really what Works with Nest is as well. So we have over 10,000 developers that are on the platform figuring out ways to connect their products and services with Nest and to create really cool integrations. And energy is an important part of that, of course, but there's lots of other safety, security type implications. And then the other thing we spend a lot of time thinking about is mesh networks in the home, because in order to have a truly connected home, you need a better way to have the devices speaking with one another other than Wi-Fi. And we found when we were in the process of trying to enable device-to-device communication that there were a lot of problems with the existing protocols that were out there, like Zigbee. So they either were not low power enough to be used on battery-operated devices. They were not super secure, which of course is paramount for a connected home type of network. Or they had what I like to call the Christmas lights problem, where if one device went out, they all went out. And so, as it turns out, we were not the only company that was struggling with this problem. And so Nest, in conjunction with 6 or 7 other companies, formed the Thread network. And so this is a new protocol that we're embedding in our devices and that lots of other companies now are also using that will enable seamless communication. And it is absolutely to our benefit to have this standard out there, open, have other people use it, because people's homes are messy and there's going to be lots of different devices from lots of different companies that show up there, and it's to everybody's benefit if they can all connect. So I would say, you know, in general, we at Nest recognize that it is in our best interest as well as in kind of consumers' best interests if we can play nicely with others. And we still are going to produce really amazing products that we hope people will buy. But, you know, beyond that, there's this kind of bigger picture that we need to kind of push along in order to create the sort of market transformation that we believe is needed.
That's just great. Thank you both.
Of course.
So Nest for buying a thermostat an aesthetic experience, which would have seen that coming, and Matt for recognizing that data is a social good. Thanks to our guests Hannah Bascom and Matt Gee for joining us today. Thanks to everyone for watching. Once again, I'm Claire Butterfield, the Program Director at ISEIF. This is our last Surge Series webcast of the year, but stay tuned for more content in the first few months of 2016. Until next time, thanks.